paid speeches. And she's got a speaking coach, one of the best in the world, that's helping her out with that this year. And anyways, let's bring her up. I'll quit gushing on her. Amiee Mueller, buy her book.
So, it's funny, I keep saying 3.8. It was a 3.98, just so you know. But also, I know, that's okay. Yeah, that's okay. And then Tom was like, mine was summa cum laude, which is awesome. Yeah, Tom. Good stuff. Okay, let's talk about some marketing. We are going to talk about types of marketing and the systems and strategies to put into place. And I mostly have it on PowerPoint, so this should go pretty easy, and then we'd have time for Q&A, I think, at the end, so that should be good. So let's start here, you guys, because it does make a huge difference. By the way, when I asked earlier, like, people to stand up, I actually wasn't expecting that many people to stand up. That was pretty amazing. I'm really excited that we're able to help as many of you as we are helping, because I want you guys to get the most out of your business. You put in the effort, you should get as most out of it as possible, so I'm glad that we can help you do that. So let's talk about types of marketing first. So here are the three main types, right? Direct mail, email, and calls. And I am adding calls in there because that is a type, right? When you reach out to your customers, that direct call is still a marketing type. And we're going to talk about how these differ and how they're good and bad, and so you can choose what to do. The reason I think that Mike is so successful because he does a little bit of everything. So here's the thing. Do you guys have any idea why to use all three? What do you guys think? What do you think, Patton? Yeah, that is exactly right. The reason is some people will love getting stuff in the mail, but they won't open an email. Some people love email and will open email, but they won't answer a phone, right? Some people will answer a phone, but they won't do either. Some people will do all three, by the way. But everybody's different. So you're only going to be hitting parts of your market if you're only doing parts of this, right? You're going to be hitting different people when you do them all. So that's definitely why you want to use all three. Also, isn't it true that some of you guys have, like, some of your people in your database don't even have a working email? And some of them have the email, but they don't have the correct address because it came back to you last thing you sent or whatever, or you tried to call and it's not even the right number. So you don't even have all of the data 100% in all three categories. So you have to do different stuff if you're going to reach everybody, right? And of course, I don't even have social media on here as an extension, but some people, as Missy knows, who's great at social media, some people will do social media, but they won't do any of this probably, right? So you should probably throw that one in as well. Why not? Okay, so let's talk about the positives and negatives of these. So direct mail. Here's what I like about direct mail. It is tangible. By the way, I know you guys are young, so maybe this doesn't apply to you, but do any of you like to get mail? Me too. I do. I'm like, yes. Now, junk mail is a whole other thing, right? But I love getting mail from someone. So first of all, it's tangible. They have something. And they keep it sometimes. Josh actually texted me one time, like just in the last couple of months, a picture of one of his old postcards. And he was like, when did we send this postcard? Because this customer just called me and was like, I have this postcard. I want to use this coupon or whatever. And it was from like 2.5 years ago, and we didn't put an expiration date on it. That was the mistake. Always put an expiration date, by the way. So we did, give them the offer because there was no expiration date. But some people will keep that stuff, right? It's tangible. The other thing about it is addresses, I think, change less often than like email addresses, right? So you're more likely to have the correct data on that. And they definitely will see it. Now, they might take one look at it and throw it in the trash, but they're going to see it. Unless the spouse checks the mail and throws it in the trash before they see it. The general idea is they're going to get it. If they get it, they're going to at least look at it. The downside of direct mail, it's slower, right? An email is instant. A phone call, if they answer, is instant. This is going to be a little slower. Plus, you generally have shorter messages in that. If you're sending a postcard, there's not a lot of room to put a lot of personal information in a message on a postcard. Okay, it just has to be a shorter message. You can send letters. We do letters too, by the way. And those are longer than postcards, but you still don't want to send like a 5-page letter. They probably aren't going to read that. So you want to keep it nice and neat. And it's more expensive. Direct mail is probably the most expensive, depending on how you do calls. Direct mail is probably the most expensive, but worth it. We definitely, Josh can share with you after I get done here, a direct mail campaign that he did as a combination of other things, and it was hugely successful. Let's talk about email. Email, of course, is the fastest, so that's great. It's the one that you can use most often, because if you wanted to, you could send an email a week. It would be hard to send direct mail every single week, okay? But you could send an email a week if you wanted to. And you can usually use longer messages, because this is where you can even if you're trying to provide more value, if you don't want the email itself to be huge, if you're sending like a recipe and a link to this cool thing and a link to that cool thing, you can actually just have it be a short message with links that go to those different things of content, right? But it's still more value. So generally you can make them more. And then of course, email is generally the least expensive of all three. So that is the positives. As far as negatives, these are going to be easy for you guys. Probably already know this. Competition's higher, right? People get spam, all that stuff. So it's just higher. They get a lot of emails. And they may never even look at it. They might delete it without ever opening it. It's really easy to do. We're going to talk about how to not have them do that too often. But here's what's great about phone calls. First of all, if you're making the phone call, it's free, essentially, right? Because you're not paying someone to do that. So it's least expensive if you're making them. It's the most personal because you're talking to them. Okay, you can actually like have that conversation back and forth. And this is what's great about phone calls. It's got the highest conversion. Whether you're talking about making the sale or whether you're talking about just getting updated info for the account to get the new email, to get the new address, whatever, or phone call is your best conversion. The other two work, but they work at a higher level when they're followed up with a call. Does that make sense? Absolutely. You will get, like if you think you're just going to send a postcard or just send an email and the sales are just going to roll in, you'll get some sales. But you're going to get way more when you actually do the follow-up. But we'll show you how to target your follow-up so that it's not taking you as much time. And by the way, Jamie, I don't know if Jamie's in the back of the room. I hope you don't mind me sharing this. I didn't ask him ahead of time. Sorry, Jamie. But when Jamie came to us, I guess in 2014, and was like, I don't know if we should use your marketing or whatever. I've been doing my own whatever. And I'm like, whatever is best for you, man. We can do this or not do this. We're happy to help, whatever. Jamie, you just had your best year ever. 20 years in the business, you just had your best year ever last year. That is super awesome. You know what I love about Jamie? I think he's the hardest working follow-up to marketing I've ever seen. Jamie will send a postcard to 3,000 people and he will call 3,000 people to follow up. It's amazing. And that's part of why he gets those results. So definitely that phone call makes a big difference. The downside of phone time, of course, it's the most expensive if you are not the one doing it. Right? So if you're going to pay someone else to sit down and make calls for you, that is probably the most expensive way to go because it takes time to get through an entire list of calls. And it's the most time consuming. Whether you're doing it, whether someone else is doing it, it's going to take some time to get through all those. Okay, so definitely want to mix in all three. If you haven't done direct mail before and you want to do postcards, definitely see Chuck. Because I know Chuck works with a lot of you guys on postcards, okay? So if you want help, like you can totally make your own. I know Mike, of course, makes all of his own. He talks about that. But if you want help with it, then Chuck can definitely help you guys with that. Okay, let's move on to systems and strategies. This is what I love. The data you need. So if you're going to market, you absolutely have to have this. If you don't have these, you cannot use these marketing pieces, right? You have to have their name, you have to have their email, you have to have their phone, and you have to have their address if you're doing direct mail. By the way, at the very minimum, you should get zip code. In our CRM, one of my favorite features is the zip code search. Do any of you use the zip code radius search? Oh my gosh, that is the best. So you put everybody's zip code in there. So if you're at an event and they're doing the thing where they're like, oh, can you send me a catalog? You're like, I don't carry paper catalogs or whatever, but I can send you my online catalog, right? Just go ahead and write down your email, whatever. Or they're like, I need sharpening, whatever they say. If they're rushing because you're going to show it's busy, whatever, and you can't get all the address and everything, get name, email, phone, zip. That's all you need. Name, email, phone, zip. Because you can go into the CRM when you need to, search a zip radius and go, I want to send an email offering service or offering whatever to everybody within 20 miles of this one zip code. And that's your list then that you're going to call later. People will respond, right? It's amazing. If you're going to invite people to an event, you're going to say, I'm working this home and garden show. I'm going to send an invite to everybody within 60 miles of that event zip code. And they're all going to get it. You do not need to invite people across the country to an event that's here, right? That's a waste of sending emails generally. So if you can target it, then they're not getting junk email that's not applying to them. They know that doesn't apply to them. And you say, like I sent out a book thing, so you probably saw it. Come to Austin, have a book signing. And you're like, I live in California. I know, but you're on my list. And I figured you could recommend people in Austin. So awesome. But yeah, so definitely want to keep that. Now, here's the stuff you should want to have, because this makes your marketing even more effective. Get both names, right? Not just the husband or wife. Get both names. Get 2 emails if you can. I can't remember how Josh says this, but email and phone, you say something like, they give you one, and then you're like, cool, is there a better, like, how do you word that when you ask them for the second email or phone?
I just always ask her, like, what's the best email reach at? Or what's the best phone number reach?
Yeah, or is there a secondary? If I try to call that one, I can't catch you, is there a second one? But somehow he gets more than one. And we keep a note of that. So in the CRM where it has the extension box, we put, like if I'm seeing Tom and Jill and I get both their cell phones, it's going to say CT and CJ next to each number so I know which cell is Tom and which cell is Jill. right? But I'm definitely going to get that information if I can get it. You're going to keep track of the communication you have with them. It does help you later. You want to keep track of the last order date, what they own, what their wish list is, what their lifetime CPO is, the event they came to. So here's the only time we send event invites to people who are across the country. When we do an event invite, we say this mile radius around the event and anybody who's tagged from that event previously. Does that make sense? So if we met them at that event in a previous year, we're going to send them another invite because they might be coming back to that event again if they were there once, right? So that would be where that applies. You know, how they were referred. So who referred them or the event they were referred by, whatever. Their type and status is like, are they realtor? Are they residential? Are they business gift? Status is, are they a customer? Are they a prospect? Whatever, right? Keep that stuff in there. You can put your referrals and everything in there. And then other notes. So you want to have that stuff. That's going to help you out with your marketing. You can target market when you have this information. Okay. Now, let's talk about planning ahead. If you're going to do direct mail, you should probably have a good 5 to 6 weeks at least lead time. So like if you want something to go out on March 1st, 5 or 6 weeks before that, you should be planning it and getting the vendors involved. It depends on how you do it, but when we do direct mail with like postcards, there's somebody who designs it, there's somebody who actually prints it and mails it and all that stuff. And it's a lot of back and forth. It's like, here's what I want. Cool, nope, change that design. Cool, now it's proof, now send it to the mailing company. And that actually is after you've already reached out to the mailing company to say, I need a quote. How much is it gonna cost me, right? To even decide how you wanna do it. There's a lot of back and forth. It takes some time. It's not like, oh, I do a postcard tomorrow. Awesome. Get it designed, get it printed, get it mailed, all that in one day. It doesn't work. Okay, so you have to have some lead time on that. For emails, I would say give yourself 7 to 10 days. I've had reps that reach out to me and they're like, I just put an email together. I'm trying to get it out right now. And for some reason, something's not working. And I'm like, dude, why is it so last minute? Don't put yourself in a stressful situation. Make sure you're creating that email ahead of time so that when you're going through it, if you find like you send the proof and you're like, oh, that doesn't look right. Mike said that. Proof it, right? Send it to yourself. See what it looks like. If it doesn't look right, you need time to actually go in there and fix it. So don't stress yourself out and wait till the last minute. My suggestion is that you plan months ahead if you can. Like if you can plan for Josh, we sat down at the beginning of the year and we planned out the entire year. Here's when we're sending letters, postcards, emails, which email, content email, event invite, service generator, whatever. Because I guarantee you, and I think Josh even had one of the guys he was working with ask him one time, he was like, I want to do the marketing, but I have such a hard time doing it because I'm so busy. And then I'm like, oh, I need to do that. And then I get busy and then I don't get it done. And then I feel stressed out. And then like next month's the same thing. Like, oh, I got to think about that. And he's like, dude, if you just sat down once and planned out everything for a year or even a campaign, you only had to think about it once. And then you just implement it as you go, right? So it's just a lot less stressful for you guys if you can plan it out ahead of time. Plus, it works better. We had somebody this fall that I sent out an email saying, here's this sale. It was like a 2-week sale if you want to buy the email, and he bought it. So we sent out his 2-week sale email. And then 2 days later, somebody mentoring him sent out a 2-day sale. He's like, ooh, I want to do that too. And I'm like, send it tomorrow. And I'm like, we could, but you're running a 2-week sale right now, right? Does that make sense? So you don't want every decision you make to be a last minute. You want it to fit into a strategy. Okay, don't worry about what everybody else is doing right then. You can do a 2-day sale another time that will work. It doesn't have to happen the exact same time everybody else is doing it. Okay, but it helps if you plan it out ahead of time. Okay, let's talk about what Mike said earlier, you guys, when he said a percentage off. Here's the deal. We used to try a lot more sales that were kind of like the portal sales. Buy 3, get 1 free, right? Or spend this money to get that, which that one's actually okay as far as casting a wide net. But we have found we got a much better response when we just say 10% off this many items and 20% off this many items. And the reason is it casts a much wider net. Because if you say to someone I'm having a sale on garden tools, the only people that are going to respond are people who want garden tools, right? If you say 10% off everything or even one item, then people will respond that are interested in anything. Does that make sense? There used to be a time where we never discounted one piece ever. It was always minimum 2 or 3 pieces, every single thing we did. And then we finally let's just try it. We did 10% off everything, even one piece. And we had people call that were finally, I've been waiting to buy a spatula, but it's never on sale for one piece. And we're all right, good, here's your 10%, right? So you just cast that wide net. It definitely does make a difference sometimes. It's like being at an event and they tell you what they want and you can upsell from there. Upserve. Okay, so here's what I'd say that's the most important thing about marketing strategy, and this is happening everywhere, every marketing seminar that we go to or mentor that we have, this is what's working. More value than offers. Value, 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 offer. Value, 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 offer at a minimum. That means for every sale that you send, you should be sending at least 3 content or value added pieces, okay? What happens is if you're only sending sales, even if you only send sales 3 times a year, but you're still only sending sales, they get to a point where they just stop looking. Like they see your email come in and it says sale and they're like, I don't need anything right now, trash. They don't even open it, right? Because they're like, I don't need anything. So they only really open it when they're like, oh yeah, I've been thinking maybe add it or whatever, if they're curious. But if you're sending like value, like here's a recipe, here's some tips on how to use this tool, here's something cool, whatever. And then you send it, like when they get used to opening it, so they're like, oh yeah, they send me cool stuff. Then they'll open it just to see what's in there. We even have people where, like when we do sales, oftentimes we'll do send the sale email, and then the next time we send an email, like a few days later, it's a content with a sale reminder, so they'll open the content and see the sale. And then the last email, like a few days after that, is like last day of the sale or whatever it is, right? Last 2 days. But I know that people open content. You get more opens if you send the value. That's the point. And I know I've had people come into our marketing too. I think even when Brandon started with us, he was like, I'm going for the silver. I would need to send a sale right now. And I'm like, we can, but I would recommend that we do 3 contents first, bless you, and then the sale, because you'll get better response. You'll get some responses from a sale, but you'll get better responses to your sale when you've provided value up front. It's almost the reciprocating thing too. You've provided value to me, so now I want to help you out, right? I promise you if you do that, you'll get better results. So don't just focus on sales, bless you again, in your marketing. Okay, that really, and keep it personalized. It has to have their first name in it. It has to. If you're sending it with no first name on it, they know it's not personal. Okay, it has to have their first name in it. Which is also why I recommend stuff like when you're putting stuff in your CRM, I wouldn't recommend using all caps. People do that, right? It's all caps and names, but then when you send emails, it's like, hey, Carlton, right? And then everything else is caps and lowers, and you're like, that is obvious that just filled that in, right? Which they know that stuff happens anyway, but use caps and lowers. And so I recommend it. So here are different value things you can provide. I think I put them on here. Yeah, value examples. So you can do teaching content, right? So that's all that stuff. That's easy with Cutco, because you can do how to use this piece, how to use that piece, how to cut a particular type of fruit or whatever. Thank you cards or emails, greeting cards, gifts, service offers, event information, appointment reminders. All that stuff is like content, value added stuff, right? So you can send any of that stuff in between sending your sales. Oh, sorry, I'll leave it there. Okay. You're welcome. And then always proof it. Always, always, always proof it. Like when you go to set up an email, like in our CRM, there's a place where right when you get ready to send the email, you can click on a button that says preview at the bottom, and it'll open it up and fill in the names and fill in your signature so you can make sure that it's working. I've had people, like I've had reps in this business where I get their email and I see it and I'm like, it says hello first name, right? You guys ever seen that before? And you're like, oh, and I did that once too, by the way. So I'm not picking on that person because I made that same mistake. But I'm like, you have to proof it because they just had the code in there wrong and it just wasn't working. So I'm like, always proof it because when they get it and it says hello first name, that is like, you can recover from it, but it's not awesome, right? So always proof it to make sure it looks right, make sure it's filling in perfectly. We've had a couple people actually recently send blank emails. Like they forgot to choose the template. So they sent an email that had a subject line and no email in it. And I'm like, always proof it, always. Make sure, okay? And by the way, I know this stuff works because Josh has people constantly come up to him. He had a woman just this last month, I think, or 2, that bought from him and is like, I only buy from you because you actually keep in touch with me. You send me cool stuff, blah, blah, blah. Other people don't do that, whatever. I would never buy from anybody else. And he had one woman recently that bought, I think in the fall, that bought an ultimate set, I think it was, for her husband. And he was saying that she called and she's like, I don't even know how I know you. Like, I know, she's like, I don't know how I recognize your face, why I know that you have a wife named Amy. Like, she's like, I don't even totally know how I know that stuff, but it's because he keeps in touch with her. They had met like 5 years ago. She bought a sharpener like 5 years before that, and for her parents as a gift. And then he kept in touch, and now she's like, my husband wants good knives, so I'm going to buy this ultimate set for him for Christmas. Awesome. Okay, just for keeping in touch. That's how easy it can be sometimes. Okay, let's talk about email stats, because this is huge. I know Mike said that he uses the portal, and I'm not telling you not to use the portal. I just think that the one downside you miss with the portal is that you don't get these stats. That's correct, right? I've never actually sent from the portal, but I believe you don't get email stats. So you can't see like who viewed your emails, who clicked on what, that kind of stuff. And like we said earlier, the way that you are going to efficiently do follow-up with the calls and get bigger results is by calling the people who indicate interest. Right? The interest indicator. So if they click on your email, the only time people call views is if they have a smaller list, and so maybe they only have like 50 views, and there was only like 3 clicks, I would call the views then. because at least they probably looked at it, saw that it came through. But usually you just focus on the clicks. So you send out an email that's a promotion, and you see that, because a lot of people will click to look at your website, but they just don't actually place the order, but just clicking indicates some interest. So that's when you follow up and you say, you don't follow up, you never let them know they clicked, right? Never. I saw that you clicked on my email, or I saw that you saw it. They're gonna be like, what? So big brother and all that. So you just do the normal call, like, hey, I'm just calling to see how you're doing. Cool, you chat, and they're like, hey, did you see the email I sent out recently? And they did. At least you think they did. Someone else could have been in their email, but they did, right? And then you just go from there. So, but that has been huge. Josh, how much did you sell in December just on calling clicks? 30K. Just from calling clicks, right? So that's the cool thing, because you don't have to call everybody. You can be a Jamie and call 3,000 people. That's totally fine. If you have the time for that, do it. But if you don't have the time for that, then you narrow it down, you call the clicks, people who indicated some interest. That is huge. The thing I have in there for subject line comparison, people always ask about subject lines. The best thing I can tell you is just keep track of the subject lines you're using and what your view rate is over time, and start just looking at it. The only thing you can really do is test it, right? Everybody's list is different. So you really can only just test it. There's nobody can say, this is the perfect subject line for you. Okay, I've read a lot of stuff online about effective subject lines, and even then, there's some variance, but the best thing you can do is test it. Okay, so make sure I didn't miss anything else here. So here's what I would say. As far as fast action, we'll answer any questions you guys want to. I just wanted to cover the overview here. But as far as fast action, if any of you want us to help you, here's why I think a lot of people like it. One is that we can kind of do it whichever way works for you. Like if you need help with emails, by the way, there are some people who build their own emails, like they create their email, they build it, they send it, everything's done themselves. They're just in the CRM. But there are some people who create their own email, but they just don't want to take the time to build it in the system. So they send us all that stuff and say, hey, can you build this? And we do that for a very small fee and either send it for them or they send it. And there's some people who don't want to be involved at all. They're like, I just want to send an email. Like I just want to just have this kind of message and maybe some cool graphics, whatever. And so they have us create it and build it and send it. So you can really do it any way that works for you, right? That's what we're here to do for you guys. As far as direct mail, if you want postcards, Chuck is the place to go. He's got a lot more templates, a lot of options, all that kind of stuff. But we do help people with letters. Like Patton just came by recently and was like, here's a box of letters, here's envelopes, here's stamps. And we just did all the work, right? We just did all the stuffing and addressing and stamping and whatever. And sometimes people will give us the stickers to put on, and usually we hand address. So you get a higher open rate on letters if you hand address them versus putting a sticker on there. Does that make sense to you guys? Because it's more personal. So if you have the time to hand address, I suggest that you hand address. So we do that for people. We've helped people with catalogs before, stuffing, sending a catalog rather than doing the CSP catalog. Just saying, it's just an example. Thank you cards, appointment reminders, holiday cards, stuff like that. That's a direct mail that we usually help people with, is that kind of stuff. And then as far as phones, people ask me all the time, can we make calls? At this moment, we do not make calls for other reps, okay? But we're considering, when Josh covers stuff later, we're considering at some point in the future offering marketing calls based on what he's going to tell you guys, because they're a lot easier to manage than trying to schedule your appointments for you. And then as far as admin support, I mentioned that earlier, but we do Rolo data entry from events. Again, if you're doing events, get the lead sheets you fill out, put that stuff in your CRM so that you can put them on your marketing. When you're at the event, make sure you're saying, when you get their email, make sure you're saying to them that you're going to keep in touch, right? You're going to get emails from me. I'm going to send you how-tos and other cool stuff, keep you informed so that they know, so that you can put them on your list. Does that make sense to you guys? That's like an opt-in when you're saying, I'm going to do this, Evelyn, and then they're like, cool, here's my email. They're opting in, okay? Technically, you're not supposed to just get emails and start sending stuff if they didn't know you were going to do that, right? So make sure you let them know. But when you get those from events, put them in your system so you can start sending that stuff. Because we do have link requests from shows that turn out to be orders later because we keep in touch. Entering orders, thank you cards, cleaning up CRMs. I mean, all kinds of stuff. There's so much we could cover with marketing. I know this is really fast and it's really basic. We have to start somewhere. I think we're doing Q&A later, and you guys can always reach out. Even if you just want to reach out and say, I have some ideas or I have some questions, I just want to bounce them off of you, that's totally fine. That happens all the time. You can reach out to us for that too. Thank you.